Right, hey everybody, welcome to this Halloween edition, and thank you for joining us for highly disputed the Lloyd and Liam NFL show. Sadly, this will be our first episode without Lloyd, because some people apparently still have to do work during this whole pandemic. Who'da thunk? So, with me, as usual, is Liam and Seamus, and joining us for the second week in a row is Juice, aka Kyle Bush. How we doing, gentlemen?
Fantastic.
Great, hanging in there.
All right, fantastic. And I am Crabman, aka Coach Chev. So let's get rolling. All right, so first things first, let's talk about some of these glorious hot takes that we had last week. And did any of theirs come true? I think so far only one person had theirs come true. Juice, you called that the Pittsburgh Steelers would shut down Derrick Henry and bring him back to earth, and that they did. Derrick Henry held to, I think, 75 yards, and
75 yards.
and the Steelers somehow hung on from blowing probably one of the worst comebacks that could have been if that wasn't the Bills and Rams earlier this year. So did that go exactly according to plan?
Yes. I mean, it's kind of a safe hot take, I feel. Derrick Henry was riding a cloud for a while, and it was almost time for him to come back down. And what better way against the number one rush defense in the NFL? So kind of played it safe, but it went exactly according to plan. So
We'll take it. You are the only 1-0
Yeah.
hot take thus far. Seamus, yours was probably
I was close.
you were as close as possible to getting your take coming true without your take coming true, saying that Kyler Murray would outthrow Russell Wilson with a victory for the Cardinals. Well, you got the victory for the Cardinals.
I got the hard part right. The Cardinals did win, in spite of Cliff Kingsbury's play calling, but a little short. It was close. What 344 to like 380 something, basically.
I will say though, Russell Wilson did have the 3 picks, which I mean, if you want to count,
Negative
Wilson didn't really work on not turning the ball over, whereas Murray didn't turn the ball over. But
If we count DK Metcalf running down Buda Baker there for like not, if we count Buda Baker for like negative 90 yards, I got it.
I mean, yeah, that works, right? The negative yardage.
Yeah.
All right, Liam. Also, pretty damn close to getting.
Yeah, I was
yours
going to say,
correct.
you said his was the only one that was close to being true. Baker Mayfield needed his best game of the entire year to make my pick not come true. I mean, this was star-studded fashion. Like, the Bengals shouldn't even been in that game. And Joe Burrow had to keep my hopes alive as I scrolled between that and the other games, and I'm like, wow, I might actually know this football stuff. But alas, I'm 0-1.
Alas, you showed off that you are, in fact, a cross-country runner who's probably paying attention to the wrong sport.
Completely.
And then, of course, my pick of the Jets leading the entire game and the Bills needing a fourth quarter Josh Allen drive to take back the lead. Almost correct, but
We're good at the almost takes.
Yeah, we're good at almost being right. The Jets led every quarter but the fourth quarter, which of course is pretty much the opposite of what I predicted to happen. So, and Lloyd, of course,
That'll do it for you.
Lloyd, of course, his prediction did not even take place this week, so he's rolling double or nothing for this week.
Needs to roll over. He knew he wasn't going to be here, so he's like, let me get my 2-week take in.
That's perfect. 2 weeks notice. Okay,
yeah.
so let's we'll get to our new hot takes later on in the show, but first let's start with Liam. Steelers and Titans, a battle of the unbeatens, and the Steelers came out on top, building a huge lead at the beginning. Titans coming back and ultimately missing a field goal at the end to tie it. What are your primary thoughts coming out of that game?
Well, when you get two unbeaten teams together, I think it was Matt Nagy talking about their opponent this week, where they were saying like, "Oh, well, the Bears are better because we've had to deal with adversity," meaning like they've had games where it was tight because they're not all that good, and somehow that's an advantage for them. Well, that's kind of how the Pittsburgh Steelers and Titans game went. Both teams had different amounts of experience with adversity. And I feel like the Titans weren't really ready for a tight game because they're always, dominating the line of scrimmage in the offense. And I think Derrick Henry had maybe 4 carries for a loss. That line got moved back. I wouldn't be surprised if Taylor Lewan was one of the reasons for that. I don't think he was in for this game, was he?
No, he's out for the year.
I think he was out. So, I mean, yeah, when you lose one of your best offensive linemen, you start getting tackled for a loss and slows you down a lot. So I think that was one of the big reasons why.
Juice. In general, if you look at the stat lines, I mean, how offensively powered the Titans are versus how competent the Steelers are offensively, there really wasn't a ton of offense. I mean, Roethlisberger did throw for 260, but he also had the 3 picks. Tannehill threw for 220. Henry had the 75. I mean, other than A.J. Brown, there really wasn't anything offensively from either team that really stood out. Is that something that, like, what do we think about either of these teams? Like, are both of these teams still, like, completely real teams? Like, where do we stand here?
I mean, I think it was a tale of two halves going into that game. You look at the first half of that game, and I thought Steelers solidified themselves as probably the best team in the NFL. And then the second half rolled around, and they played probably like a mid-tier to worst team in the NFL. Same thing with the Titans. They looked awful in the first half, and Tannehill showed up in the second half to try to lead back the charge, and they fell short, obviously, because of Gostkowski. So I don't think you can entirely put that on the offense because they did what they could. It just proves that both those teams are beatable at the right moment of any time of the year. So just catching the Steelers off guard at some point in the year, I mean, looking at the schedule going forward, it's the only games that I see them possibly losing are the Ravens game if the Bills get their shit together. And I think the Colts game, I think, could be one of the other games. So they could potentially only have 3 losses this year, which is insane. And then the Titans, too. If you just catch them at the right moment and you can just hold off their charge at the end, you can beat them. No problem. So I think both these teams are just beatable teams, but they just know how to play when it matters.
Yeah, and I think if our biggest takeaway as Bills fans is, holy hell, we are going to have our hands full against the Steelers.
Yep.
Seamus, when do the Steelers lose? I mean, their upcoming games are Baltimore, Dallas, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Baltimore, Washington, Buffalo, Cincy, Indy, and Cleveland. Where do they lose?
So when you look at Pittsburgh, especially on defense, normally, the obvious answer for most people, I think they'd say, is the Ravens. But Pittsburgh's the number 1 rush defense by DVOA. They stifled Derrick Henry. And I don't see, with Mark Ingram being injured and that Baltimore offense seemingly less potent than last year because of their inability to connect on play action, I think the answer there is Buffalo, only because of the deep passing game. If there's one vulnerability to the Steeler defense, it's that Keith Butler, the defensive coordinator, likes to bring heavy pressure, 5, 6, 7-man blitzes. If you lead, assuming Josh is able to, call in the protections and stuff, their corners and safeties are beatable, especially because their best safety, Minkah Fitzpatrick, is usually in those odd blitz packages. I think a team that can attack them deep is most likely where you see that first Pittsburgh loss. And of the teams they're playing, I'd say Buffalo is the most equipped with the deep passing game.
Yeah, and especially when you got the big arm of Josh Allen who can uncork it 70 yards. I mean, if the Bills can actually get that going, then I would say that the Steelers are definitely in for a rough ride. But then you also have to say that the Bills need to be able to stop James Conner. So I would talk about the Titans' next opponent, but it is the Bengals, and I really don't think they're going to have much to worry about there, sadly.
I don't know about that.
Oh, hot topic time already.
This is hot take.
that Tennessee has an awful defense. Tennessee's defense is bad. Joe Burrow can score. It's not an issue of Cincinnati like not being able to score on people. It's that their defense is water, and they traded Carlos Dunlap, who has been their best defensive player this year already. Like, I mean, they're going to get to 30-something points against Tennessee. Tannehill's going to have to score 38 to 40 points to beat them, though.
Well, statistically, the best quarterback over the last 17 games now it might be up for the challenge.
Tannehill. But their game scripts are bad. Tennessee's game scripts have been weird lately with the like run on first, run on second, throw on third.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like they've taken the ball out of Tannehill's hands a little bit lately, which is a little puzzling based on his efficiency.
We have a random question, off-topic question. How fast can LeBron run an 800 meters? Probably no faster than any of us currently.
Well,
Currently.
Williams in like 155 shape, so.
Oh God, don't make me that sad.
You're like net fitness is 155 shape.
what is running?
Yes, yeah. None of us are. Only Liam really knows what running is at the moment.
You'd be surprised to find you'd be surprised what you'd find under that yellow suit. I think you'd find some rock hard abs.
All right, moving on. Cards and Hawks. I think everyone would pretty much agree that thus far this has been the game of 2020. I mean, that game was freaking awesome, and then you thought for sure the Cards were going to lose in overtime, and then Russell threw that interception and just gave that game right back to the Cards. Seamus, since we were the ones who were talking about it first, you had Wilson, 388, 3 touches, 3 picks, 84 rushing. Murray, 360, 3 touches, 1 interception, 67 rushing, 1 touchdown. What are your initial reactions like upon that game finishing?
I think Kyler Murray is probably firmly in that MVP discussion now, only because so they've already won 2 of their 6 division games. I would say if they go 5-1 on their division, they have the advantage of playing the last place schedule there. All of a sudden, the Cardinals could be staring at 12 wins. If Murray throws for 4,000 yards, rushes for another 800, he keeps the turnovers down. Plus, with their inability to really play consistent defense, I think like Murray really has a really good shot to slide his way into the MVP discussion, especially if Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson continue to have weeks where either you could argue that their play has hurt their teams in some regard, or it's just not up to the standard that they've set for themselves, that all of a sudden Murray being the front runner in week 11, week 12 is not out of the possibility.
Yeah, and as a Kyler Murray owner on fantasy, I can definitely say that the consistent 300-yard plus, consistent rushing attacks are definitely something that is at least keeping me alive. I'm not surprised it's keeping the Cardinals alive. Liam, are the Cardinals a Super Bowl sleeper?
I don't know about Super Bowl. They are in that really, really tough division, and I think the 49ers are starting to wake up again. So I wouldn't want to call anybody a Super Bowl contender coming out of that division. I did see a really great meme today where it was the Spider-Man memes where all the NFC teams are pointing at each other, and it says all the teams trying to lose games because they know that whichever team has to face the NFC West in a wild card has a first-round bye. I thought that was really funny, because all the teams are going to be battling to see who can face the NFC West and just immediately cruise on into the playoffs.
And then you have the NFC East, and they're all pointing at each other like whoever wins this division is going to get
NFC, that's what I meant. Yeah. I got it mixed. Yeah, and they're in the NFC West. That's right. So the one thing that I thought about this game was that this was the battle of the 2 short quarterbacks that all the NFL analysts were saying couldn't compete in the NFL. They can't throw over the O-line. They're run too often, and they're just putting up MVP-like numbers, and it makes you wonder if this trend is going to continue where you've got more and more of these old pocket passing quarterbacks retiring. You've got a lot of these young guys who are mobile They do a lot of play action. They run the ball a lot, and they're really hard to catch when they get to the outside. So I could see a lot more people like Kyler and Russell Wilson being MVP candidates the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think as football fans, we are in for some fun over the next few weeks as well as years. Juice. Seattle's 5-1. Arizona's 5-2. LA is 5-2, and San Francisco is 4-3. Who in the hell is winning this division?
Seattle. It's gonna be Seattle. I mean, you look at the game. Russell Wilson threw 3 interceptions to Kyler Murray's 1. Russell Wilson throws only 1 interception. That game is completely different. You know, I think the next time those guys meet, Russell figures stuff out and they get something down. I mean, if you look at the box score I have pulled up for that game, and it was back and forth all game. It went Seattle 10-7 first quarter, 17-10 Seattle second quarter, 7-0 Arizona third quarter, 10-7 Arizona fourth quarter, 3-0 Arizona in overtime. So that game was pretty much back and forth, and I think majority of that has to do with the interceptions Russell Wilson threw. I mean, everyone saw the Buda Baker interception that DK Metcalf had to chase down 80 yards down the field, but you take 2 of those interceptions out of there, Seattle wins that game. No, maybe with Arizona breathing down their necks, but I don't think any doubt in my mind Seattle should win that division.
Yeah, and I guess the number one thing to argue is that Seattle has 0 pass rush, and as such, most quarterbacks should be able to keep up with them, but I guess we'll find out the longer things go. But as of right now, that offense is completely unstoppable.
Yeah.
All right. So, Rams, Bears, kind of a...
I want to talk about this one.
all right. Liam, I guess I'll just open the floor for you. Let's talk about the Rams and the Bears.
We want to talk about one man, and that's Johnny Hekker, setting an NFL record for the number of punts that land within 10 yards of the opposing team's goal line. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 punts within the 10-yard line. That's ridiculous. Like, if Bojorquez gets 5 of those in a season, I'll be pretty happy. Like, in one game, that's crazy. I mean, special teams is a huge part of winning games. That was basically the biggest reason that they won that game. All the other stuff, whatever. That is some Pro Bowl, first team, NFL type of stuff. I mean, he won that game for him.
Not too often that we, as sports fans, are celebrating punters, but we'll give a nice shout out to Mr. Hekker for his all-star performance.
That's crazy.
Seamus, are the Bears good? Like, I can't tell. They either look really good, they've looked all 3. Really good, really bad, and really mediocre.
They have not looked good any games.
They've won 5 of 7.
I want to give Liam one thing. But Hekker is the number 1 punter, but they're the worst field goal and extra point kicking team and the 3rd worst return team in the league, which is the biggest discrepancy in special teams in the league right now between like one aspect of it and the others. 2 with the Bears. So I was looking at Warren Sharp's basically formation breakdowns. And the Bears have this obsession with 11 personnel, so 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, 1 tight end. And they're basically averaging like what amounts to an estimated negative yards per play with those. But when they play from heavy personnel, so 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends, 2 running, basically formations where it is ambiguous as to whether they are running or throwing the ball, they're averaging an estimated almost 9.8 yards per play on those. Yet they only run from that formation, I think, like 18% of the time, or play from that formation 18% of the time, which kind of goes back to that comment that Brian Greasy brought up during the broadcast, where Nick Foles is kind of saying, Matt Nagy is not putting me in positions to succeed, and I am having to make a lot of really bad decisions at the line of scrimmage. So I think the Bears' bye week is in 3 weeks. I think when they come out of that bye, I'm curious if they do some self-scouting, realize that where they are successful and aren't successful, and adjust their game plan going down the stretch to better fit what their team is positioned for.
I'm glad you brought that up. One of the things that I had seen rumbling around on coaching hot seats, and at the very honorable mention at the bottom of the list, one of them was actually Matt Nagy. And the question is what? Matt Nagy at 5-2? But it's exactly like you said. He's not necessarily doing the best job in putting his team in positions to win. Instead, it's more that the team happens to be winning despite a lot of the decisions that he's making. So
he's the offensive coach. He's the play caller for the Bears. Yeah, it's the defense that's carrying them. And if you're the head coach, but you're also the play caller, and you're not getting the job done, and the other side of the ball is carrying you, it's like, well, what are you doing here then?
Exactly. It's the same as Bill O'Brien being the GM for the Texans when it's like, you're a good coach, but, I mean, you suck handling talent. Justin, is there any chance that the Bears can win the division at this rate?
It's hard to say after watching that game. I mean, if you put that game on in front of me and then told me to guess the records of the teams that were playing after that game was over, I would say the Bears are below 500. They looked their only touchdown came from their defense. That's it. They scored 10 points, and their only touchdown came from their defense. The Rams scored 24 on that supposedly brick wall of a defense, and I think the Rams are a 500 team at best right now. I mean, look at the teams that the Rams beat. They beat the entire NFC East, and that's it. It's just hard to say that team is good after watching that game, but they did when their defense is on point and not letting up as many scores. Like the Bucs game, they beat good teams. Then it's hard to argue that they could win the division. But as of right now, unless they get their shit together at quarterback or at anything really on offense, they're not going to win that. They're not going to win that division.
So I guess collectively, is anybody thinking either of these teams are making the Super Bowl? I will right off the bat say no.
No, absolutely not.
No.
All right, well, glad we're all in agreement there. Random question came up soon after we finished talking about the Seahawks, and that's why did the Bills pass up on DK Metcalf? Only downside at the time, the inability to run routes, to which I say that is a pretty substantial concern for a wide receiver coming into the NFL. But, Seamus, what do you think?
Pick last year. I think it was Cody Ford, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, we needed help on the offensive line, and we signed Brown and Beasley. That's why we passed on DK Metcalf.
And then that especially looks like the right call, given that we now have Stephon Diggs, who is probably one of the best route runners in the NFL. So,
yeah,
it all worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now it's time for our little passion chat. The Bills versus the Jets, probably one of the most gut-wrenching games that we've watched, especially considering that I reached a point at watching in the first half where I'm just like, you know what? I don't even care. I don't even care. and then of course, the Bills took the lead again. I'm like, I care again.
You keep pulling me back in.
Liam, should we as Bills fans be worried after that Jets game?
Yes and no. I don't know when we're getting John Brown back, but you can definitely tell that we're missing him right now. That first half, the separation for our receivers was not it. We got to get Devin Singletary going a little bit more. We got to get a couple more. I was on here saying I don't like the design runs for Josh Allen. Maybe we just need to put him back. I mean, he gets good yards on it. Literally, whenever it happens, we pick up a first down, and the momentum just shifts like that. He gets up, he spikes the ball, and, it just seems like the drive comes alive again. The red zone efficiency was, just about as bad as you could be. I mean, you only kicked field goals. I mean, at that point, I would have just taken a shot, and, because we were behind the whole time, we had to keep kicking field goals. I don't know. I mean, we won, but it feels like a hollow loss or a hollow win.
I mean, it can still feel like a hollow loss. It's kind of, it's
empty calories.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those moral victories, except we just happened to get a victory while we were at it. Seamus, this is something that you're very passionate about. Let's talk a little bit about Tyler Bass. I mean, he was the only points the Bills had, so you got to give him something, right?
He's so bad from the right hash mark, and that's like the problem right now. Like it just starts going left and keeps going left from the right hash mark. You put him on that left hash mark though, he pipes it. He can pipe it from that left. Like that 52-yarder was from the left hash mark, money. But I mean, like I said, like I know people always are like, bring back Hauschka, right? But I watched Hauschka short a 46-yarder in Jacksonville. Bringing Hauschka back isn't an option right now. You're kind of stuck with Bass. And you just got to hope that him making 6 field goals in a game makes him feel more comfortable. And that, I don't know, if I ask him to make a 38-yarder to beat San Francisco on Sunday Night Football, that it's not going to go 12 rows left.
He does miss it when he misses it, though. He doesn't make threes at all.
At least his misses are not heartbreakers. That right away.
It's
right away.
Nope.
Trying to figure out if the camera angle is wrong. You're like, what was he kicking at?
he saw some like cute girl or something at like 7 rows wide and tried aiming for her.
Yeah, I'm watching it at home and I feel like I got a duck or something. Like, coming for me.
Juice, you're the former Jets fan, so I will unfortunately ask you a Jets question.
Oh no!
If you are the Jets, like, where do you go from here? A, do you fire Adam Gase? B, do you tank for Trevor? Do you realize that you are horrible with QBs and try and go somewhere other than QB? Like, where do you go from here?
Well, the number one problem is Adam Gase. Get rid of him, but the Jets are not going to get rid of him because everybody else thinks that they should, which is why they're not. It's just mind blowing to me that they just like to do things on their own time, and if they're being told to do it, they're just a stubborn little kid and they don't want to do it. They want to do it when they're ready to do it. Another thing is, like, looking at that game, the Jets, they always show up against the Bills, no matter how good the Bills are, no matter how good the Jets are. That game is always going to be a close game, no matter how bad the teams are each year. And it's just painstakingly to watch that way, but it just happens. The Jets have pride, the Bills have pride, and they just clash together as the New York teams, and they happen to be in the same division. And then quarterback, I don't know. I don't think they're going to tank. I think they're all going to have that in their mind. They know that they're the worst team in the NFL right now, but they're going to be fighting to beat one team this year, just because they can say that, hey, we got to win. We're not the worst team in the NFL. So I think it all starts up front. They have to realize that Adam Gase is awful, and they have to relinquish him. And then they just got to play. I mean, I don't know. I still think they're going to tank, even though they should.
It's crazy to think that Adam Gase was the offensive coordinator for Peyton Manning in the Denver Broncos the year that they put up the most points in a season in NFL history.
But if you believe the books that were written about that team, Adam Gase had like no input in that offense.
It was all Peyton Manning.
Yeah, Peyton was calling it from the line.
It'd be like,
if I had to choose Adam Gase and Peyton Manning, I'm going to be like, okay, Peyton, you're going to do what you need to do. Adam, you just be there in the back, just like make sure they're doing the correct plays.
Here's a coloring book.
Peyton hears the play call, and he's like, no, sit down.
Yeah, get back up there.
All right. Let's talk Cleveland for a second. So Cleveland is 5-2. I don't think many people would have called that. They, at the very end of the game, were able to hold off Cincinnati. Baker threw a wonderful, 5 touchdowns, I think, this past weekend.
To prove me wrong, of course, to ruin my pick, hot take.
Are the Browns real? Like here's who they've beaten. They've beaten Cincinnati twice, Washington, the Cowboys, mind you, with Dak Prescott, but with a horrible defense. And their only quality win thus far seems like it's the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, Seamus, are they real?
I don't know. So here's the thing. Kevin Stefanski is an adult. Cleveland having an adult calling plays, not Hugh Jackson, not Freddie throwing the kitchen sink kitchens. Like, having an adult matters, I think. And I think that's what they've proven. They have stars at certain positions. I think Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are very good. I think Myles Garrett is a contender for Defensive Player of the Year. I think Greedy Williams is a great corner. I think as a collection, their offensive line is really good. But I think Baker Mayfield is a huge liability. I think their middle of their defense in terms of safeties and linebackers is really vulnerable. And I think that team is very volatile in terms of their composure. I think that is a team that is prone to, like in the Pittsburgh game, where when you punch them in the mouth, they lose composure. And I can back that up with they are 5-2, but they are 22nd in DVOA. They are 24th in defensive DVOA, 29th in special teams DVOA, and they're 16th in offense. So basically, they're a 5-2 team with no analytically exceptional group. But at a certain point, it's a math problem. You win 5 games, you're already, you only got to win 4 more, and you probably make the playoffs because I don't know who else wants the playoff spot in the AFC.
Well, here's the thing. They're playing some of these teams that they have left to play. The Jets.
They have a last place schedule, don't they?
The Jets, the Giants, the Jags, the Texans, the Eagles. Like, just that alone could give them 10 wins. Like, I don't really see a way that they don't win 10 games this year.
I really
think bad teams this year.
The parity between a good team or even a halfway decent team and a bottom tier team, it's such a large difference this year than most other years.
It's crazy.
I mean, especially with New England now kind of fallen off a little bit. I mean, really now you're looking for those 5 or 6 and 7 seeds in the AFC. It seems like it's Indy and Cleveland are in the driver's seat, and maybe Vegas finds their way in there, and maybe the Chargers if Herbert gets hot, but
maybe the Dolphins.
Yeah. I mean, I could see an 8-8 team getting that 7th spot. I think there's a real chance that 8-8 is good enough to, put you in position.
What do you guys think? Are the Browns for real or are they fakers? Let us know in the chat. All right, Juice. The Pats. Cam Newton getting benched. They are now 3rd in the division, behind the Dolphins, which I don't think a lot of people would have called at the beginning of the year, and left on their schedule. They have the Bills twice, the Ravens, the Cardinals, the Rams, a streaky Chargers team, but, with a good Justin Herbert, and hell, they still have the Dolphins with a Tua. Where do they go from here?
I don't know. They did not look good this past weekend, and I don't know what it was. I didn't think the 49ers were that good of a team.
That's a pride and joy of
I didn't
Canisius
think
right there.
I didn't
Really
think
going after
the
Ohio there.
the 49ers were that good of a team, and to go into New England and just beat the pants off the Belichick team. I mean, I forget exactly what the stat was, but I think it was no former Belichick quarterback has gone into New England and beaten Belichick, or maybe one had, forget. And then Garoppolo just goes in and does that. I don't know. It's hard to say. My prediction for the Pats, I don't want to go as low as 6-10, but I'm not going any higher than 7-9 for the rest of the season.
That's usually the part of the show where I'd play my DJ air horn, but I don't think I can really argue with that. I mean, they've really shown nothing but anemia as far as their offense goes. I mean, Liam, are you on Team Stidham yet?
I'm on team nobody who's the quarterback for the Pats right now. I mean, for one, their wide receivers aren't really getting open. Like Edelman's doing his thing, kind of. He's trying his best, but they're not really getting open, and they don't really have much of a chance there. I think this game this weekend between the Bills and the Pats is going to be the turning point in the AFC. This is going to be the game that people look back and they say, this is the point where the Bills absolutely decided that they run the AFC now. It's been 20 years. We've waited this long. Tom Brady's gone. Your team sucks now. It's not my bold take of the week because I've got a different one, but I think Bills pull out big in this one. I think they win by 2 scores.
I mean, they should, especially Julian Edelman's gonna be out. And especially they're saying that we're looking at upwards of 40-mile-an-hour winds on Sunday. So, Cam Newton already has trouble slinging the rock. I highly doubt.
If there
Don't
was
let Tyler Bass kick field goals.
If there's a game Belichick's going to throw the kitchen sink in for, it's this one.
He's not ready to admit the Bills are the ones on top of the division yet.
I still think you got to think about, especially with this game, New England's not going to throw the ball. I would assume they're going to run the ball every play. There's literally no need for that. Buffalo is awful against the run. Cam Newton can't throw to his right side. He's completed 5 passes to his right side the last 3 weeks now. I mean, I would just run the triple option with Cam Newton, Damian Harris, and Rex Burkhead.
Just lateral all day long.
Why not?
The double flea flicker.
The double flea flicker into the off tackle.
If you're holding Gilmore out because you're shopping him, which is a report from people in New England that is a possibility, that Gilmore is not going to play this game because New England is looking to get off his contract. If Gilmore's not playing, I do not want Josh Allen to have the ball more than 5 times because I like J.C. Jackson, their number 2 corner. I think he's really good. And the numbers back up that he's really good. But I don't want him on Stephon Diggs all day because Diggs is going to beat him at least twice. And I don't think if Buffalo gets to 17 points, I don't think New England can score 17 points right now.
I think, and this is kind of the game that, all over watching the NFL draft, it was always Josh Allen has those big hands for those windy days in Buffalo. Like, this is kind of the showcase for that. Like, how well can he handle a 40, 50-mile-an-hour wind? Because as we're getting reminded, 50-mile-an-hour winds aren't ideal for long run.
Josh just needs to take a Xanax before the game. He needs to calm down in these big games a little bit. He doesn't need to win. He cannot win the game on the first play of the game like he thinks he can sometimes.
His first 2 plays need to be runs.
He needs to get hit.
yeah, to calm down a little bit. And now we're being asked, knowing Belichick's antics, are we going to suddenly have a weight room issue this week?
I think he's referring to Chris Nowak's supposed segment that Chris has not sent me a video for on YouTube. But we are going to have a series coming up where in the middle of the show, we are going to have Chris with a pre-recorded video highlight of him explaining of a play that it is, quote, a weight room issue.
Oh, my God.
All right. This week is Todd Gurley just not being able to keep himself out of the end zone. Keep that weight back. First step of the squat, sit back, not forward.
All right. What do you guys think? Are the Bills ready to completely take over the AFC East? Can we remove that bias? Let us know in the chat. All right. Unfortunately, this isn't someone we like to talk about, but it's someone we probably have to talk about. Tom Brady. Yeah, he absolutely demolished the Raiders, throwing for 370 and 4 touches, got a rushing touchdown. He accounted for 5 scores.
Yeah, he's decent. Next. We'll go next.
Yeah, bring me the next topic. That's all I needed to hear.
He's doing pretty good. Next.
Through 7 games, he has 20 total touchdowns. Juice, what do you want to say about that?
Nothing. I don't like Tom Brady.
All right, Liam, what do
Uh,
you want to say about it?
It's all Bruce Arians. He's just a systems quarterback. Has nothing to do with him.
All right. Seamus, anything to add before we move on?
Tampa's widened so Tampa was the number 1 team by DVOA after the Packers game. They have widened that lead as the number 1 team by DVOA. They are also the only team that's top 10 in offense, defense, and special teams.
So does that mean we're actually having to talk about a reality where the Bucks might be in the Super Bowl?
I think Tampa.
They're gonna lose where it matters.
There's 2 teams that I think are an exceptionally bad matchup for Tampa. One is San Francisco, who, remember, Tampa is still not in position to get the bye right now. They would actually be, I think, the 3
behind Seattle and Green Bay.
Chicago.
Oh no, Green Bay.
Chicago. Oh, Green Bay, yeah, 5-1. Green Bay's 5-1. That's right.
Chicago makes the
And
playoffs.
Chicago has the tiebreaker on them too. So I mean, I think San Francisco is an exceptionally bad matchup for that New England team because of Kyle Shanahan's scheme diversity. And I actually think the New Orleans Saints in their own division are a bad matchup for them just because of the ball control and limited. Again, I think with these good quarterbacks, the numbers have started to bear out is the way to beat them is to limit their possessions, to make them go the whole length of the field every time. So a more conservative game plan in terms of 4th down aggressiveness, punt, game management, and putting the game ultimately down to high variance plays. So taking deep shots yourself, limiting opponents' deep shots. That seems to be the strategy to beating these great quarterbacks. Even the Bills against Kansas City, you saw what they did. They limited the number of high variance chances Mahomes had while taking a lot more high variance chances themselves. I think that's the strategy. New Orleans and San Francisco do that well. I think that's who Tampa Bay is worried about.
Seamus, we didn't actually want to talk about Tom Brady. Come on, man.
I didn't talk about Tom Brady. That was entirely.
I know that was a completely Brady.
I don't think he said his name once, and it made me happy.
I'm quite impressed. That was very good. All right, so this one's a little bit of an interesting topic. Let's talk potential candidates for Rookie of the Year on the offensive side of the ball. You have Justin Herbert, who's slinging it for over 300 yards a game, but he's 1-4 as a starter. But, he also has 12 touchdowns to 3 picks. Burrow has 2,000 yards in 7 games, but he only has 9 touchdowns to 5 picks. Justin Jefferson, 28 catches, 537, including 3 of his last 4 over 100 with 3 touches. Then you have the 2 running backs, James Robinson and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde is currently 2nd in the NFL in rushing, only behind Derrick Henry, and Robinson is 7th in the NFL. But Robinson also has, I think, 7 touchdowns on the year, whereas Clyde has 2. Liam, those are the 5 people who I see, but who do you think is on pace right now to win that ORY award?
Well, it's a tough one to go with because we're halfway through the season. It's tough to tell who's going to edge out anybody else. We just started seeing Herbert's kind of started to come into his own, but he hasn't really won the games yet. To be perfectly honest, I think it's favoring Clyde Edwards-Helaire right now. I mean, he is averaging, I don't know what, but a lot per carry, and he's on a Kansas City team that has a million other weapons. And I think the real thing is that he is proving to Andy Reid and that Chiefs team that he is their go-to option when they need to get the ball down the field. And somehow it's not their receiving core first. It seems like he's kind of becoming his own thing on a team that just won the Super Bowl last year. I mean, he was picked at the end of the first round, not a bad spot. I think he's going to only go up from here. And I think it's only during the regular season, right? This is just a regular season
Correct.
award. I could see I have them. They're my pick to win the Super Bowl again this year. So, I mean, he could be a Super Bowl MVP depending on how the game goes. So, I mean, that won't be included, but I think he's my pick.
It's interesting because he doesn't have the scores, but he definitely has, I think his first down percentage is, I want to say it's like 8% or something like that, whereas most other running backs in the NFL are hovering around 6 to 5.5. So he's definitely, being the consistent factor. I think the big question mark there is going to be what does Le'Veon Bell take anything away from that? But up to this point, I would definitely say he has a very big chance to win that O'Roy. Juice, who's your number one rookie on the offensive side thus far?
It's hard to argue with what Liam. I'm going to go with Liam as well. Just based off production value. I mean, if you look at this list of offensive rookies that you just gave Herbert, Burrow, Jefferson, Robinson, the ball to when it matters, it's going to be CEH because he's proven he can do it. He's proven he can take a game into his own hands when he needs to. Herbert, I don't think his record is entirely his fault. I mean, if you look at the Chargers stat, I think majority of their games this year and last year have been lost by one score. So I don't think that's entirely on him. Burrow, he's good. He just doesn't have the winning record to prove it right now. He only has so 9 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. So it's not entirely that great, but he is playing pretty well. Jefferson, he's good. I don't think he's in the conversation for that really. He's somebody that's just reliable, like Cole Beasley. He's there to throw the ball to, and he can catch it when it matters. But if there's anybody in that list that I want to give the ball when it matters, especially after their first season, it's going to be CEH, and I think that's going to win him the award.
We have our first call out to bring out Lloyd, and unfortunately, Lloyd is busy nursing right now, so he will be here next week, unless he, of course, has to be called in again. But don't worry, Lord Hopperton. Lloyd will still be here, and he will be included in the YouTube version where we give our Stephen A. Smith top fives.
That's right. Are we doing the takes right now, or do we have another topic?
We still have Juice's Fitz rantic going on.
Oh, that's right.
A little bit. But quickly, Seamus.
I'll keep this brief. I think it's going to end up being Justin Herbert. More primetime games than any of those other guys left. Actually, Kansas City's actually pretty limited on primetime the rest of the season. I think it's
all about ratings.
The way that the scouting community has gotten behind basically saying that Herbert was sort of the undervalued guy in this draft class because of some limitations from his offense at Oregon, combined with, I think, this sort of narrative of him being put in a really awkward situation with the Tyrod Taylor lung puncture and coming in and succeeding with a pretty injured team. And ultimately, I think the Chargers just have an opportunity to win 5 games at the end of the year. And I think generally, if there's a great rookie quarterback, this award will usually go to the great rookie quarterback as sort of the harbinger of, like, we are anointing him the next guy. I think it's going to be Herbert just because I think the Chargers do have a chance to get to 5 wins. And I think if Herbert throws for 20 touchdowns, keeps the turnovers low, I don't see why he's not ultimately the offensive rookie of the year.
And I know that he won't be, but personally, I would love to see James Robinson win that award. I mean, I'm slightly biased because I have him in fantasy again. But if you think about it, he's pumping out some really good running back numbers on a team that is always losing. I mean, he's 7th in rushing, and he has more receiving yards than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He has less than 100 yards. I'm sorry, he's less than 100 yards away from Edwards-Helaire, and he has, I think, 5 more touchdowns this season than CEH does. So he won't win it because he's on the Jags, and there's no chance in hell the Jags get that. But I think it would be fun to see him win it. Before we move on, we have one more topic before we go on to our little rant here. But first, we have a question asking, what are our thoughts on free agent signings such as Dez Bryant and AB? I already know that Seamus thinks that AB will have an impact on Tampa Bay simply because he must be on his best behavior. But I'll open up by saying I don't think that Bryant's going to be a huge impact yet because he's only on the practice squad, but we'll see.
Bryant's a signing for like week 17 for Baltimore as like a jump ball insurance policy for Lamar. Again, I think they're trying to compensate for some of his noted accuracy issues this year. I mean, his completion percentage is teetering under 60%. And, people rip on Josh Allen for percentage all the time. Guess what? Lamar is flirting with like bottom tier completion percentage. And I know he was the MVP last year, but I mean that the underlying numbers for him this year are bad. And Bryant's there, I think, just to try and give him something to throw to. But AB's on his best behavior. He's 5 seconds late to a meeting. He's getting thrown out. They're cutting him. So
yeah,
he's got to be on his best behavior.
Liam, what do you think?
I think AB is going to be a great addition. I keep forgetting that Tom Brady and Antonio Brown have already played together. That feels like a fever dream. But I mean, not for nothing, they didn't lose a game when the two of them were together. So this adds a little bit. I mean, the Tampa Bay wide receiving core also has glass bones and paper skin. So this adds a little bit of depth to a wide receiver group that just falls apart at any instant. So, I mean, I thought they were already good. The rich keep getting richer, but I think he's going to make them a lot better. Dez, I don't think he's going to be that big of a difference.
Juice, what do you think?
I like the Dez Bryant signing for the Ravens. I think that is a sleeper signing for sure. I have no idea what Antonio Brown's going to do. He's just a complete wild card. You can't say he's going to be on his best behavior because you don't know what he's going to bring to the table each day. You don't know if he's going to punch a teammate or you don't know if he's going to help rescue some homeless kids from a bus. I don't know what he's going to do that day. It's a complete toss up in the air. You don't know what he's going to bring each day. And I think Dez Bryant is the better signing, especially like later in the season. The Ravens are just trying to add that old Mr. Reliable that most teams that are good have to catch balls. So,
hey, Justin, Liam, how old do you think Dez Bryant is?
Isn't he only like 31?
28.
29.
31.
Oh, what?
No,
I thought
he's
he was
31.
29. Oh.
I thought he was younger. No, he's 31.
Oh, damn.
Hey, I got it right.
There are like great, like Julio. He is younger than Julio Jones. I don't know why people thought like teams thought that he was just like done. I don't know if it's his behavior or the multiple Achilles tears, but like
one of those two, yeah, for sure.
But like I don't know, he was like a top 5 receiver for like a couple of years there. He tore his Achilles. They were just like, "Oh, you're out of the league."
I didn't really good.
I never understood how he just disappeared.
Yeah, I don't get that really. Maybe it's just a Cowboys thing.
Anything Jerry touches turns to poo-poo.
Yeah.
All right, so last thing on our agenda real quick is we will probably spend – I'll ask each of you to spend 30 seconds. Who is – like WTF is going on with that NFC East division? Liam, who's winning it and why? 30 seconds.
I think the Eagles are going to win it, and it's because all the other teams suck that bad, and the Eagles somehow find a way to suck the least of any other team. The Dallas Cowboys are now the new Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are the new Dallas Cowboys. They've completely flipped, and I am a little bit concerned about who's the new guy in Dallas.
Ben DiNucci.
Ben DiNucci. If this guy ends up being is he technically a rookie? Can he win Rookie of the Year? Yeah, that'd be awesome. If Ben DiNucci won Rookie of the Year. That's all I got to say. Ben DiNucci for Rookie of the Year.
Juice, who's winning?
It's either be the Eagles or the Washington football team based off how they smacked around the Cowboys this past weekend. if Carson Wentz can figure stuff out and not look like a squirrel running around on the fields, then the Eagles will win it easily. But I don't count the football team.
Seamus, who's winning?
Philly, they're getting They're going to get healthy at some point. They have more talent than any of the other teams, and the other three quarterbacks in that division are Ben DiNucci, Kyle Allen, and Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones gave us the meme of the year last week with the running 80 yards and stumbling. So
it made the Josh Norman stiff arm go away.
It made the Norman stiff arm go away. But watch, Norman's back this week. The Norman stiff arm is going to reappear if someone even touches him this week. Like David like touches him a little bit, the Norman stiff arm meme is back.
If that game between the Eagles and the Giants didn't personify everything that the NFC East is about, I don't know what else could. And
the football team beating the Cowboys 25-3.
Well, I'm gonna say based on that, I think that a dark horse to win that division is the football team because we already know their defense is not the problem. So if their offense ever starts clicking, come on, my favorite mascot in the world, the football team. All right.
Quick question: can they keep the name? Do you think they keep the name?
They're keeping it for next year.
Yes.
I think they should just keep it. I say screw it. I say keep the name the football team. The logo's not as bad as the Browns logo. The colors aren't as bad as the Browns colors. Like, just keep it.
And in 2 years, people are going to stop complaining about the name anyway.
How about that football team?
The football team.
All right. I think this is around the time where, Justin, we will give you the floor. Tell us, like, there's something on your mind.
There is something on my mind, and it bothers me that a young man by Ryan Fitzpatrick does not get the credit that he deserves. I don't think he will. This is the key to this. I don't think he will, but I think he should be a Hall of Fame quarterback. I think at the end of his career, he should be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And here's why. He is a man that has bounced around the league more times than I can count, and I challenge any other quarterback in the league to do what he has done. He's played with, 8 different teams in the span of 16 years. He's only played 3 full seasons in those 16 years. 2 full seasons with the Bills, 1 full season with the Jets. And that hurts. I think he needs to get more credit than he deserves for only that, because he gets benched far too often. And here's some of his numbers to back it up. He has 34,421 career yards. Looking at some other Hall of Fame quarterbacks, Troy Aikman, 32,942 yards. Terry Bradshaw, 27,989 yards. Joe Namath, 27,663 yards. Jim Kelly, 35,467 yards. And Steve Young, 33,124 yards. Now, if you look at their touchdown to interception ratio, Ryan Fitzpatrick, 220 to 168. Not great. But the other ones, Troy Aikman, 165 to 141. Terry Bradshaw, 212 to 210. Joe Namath, 173 to 220. Jim Kelly, 237 to 175. And I think he has a similar career to Jim Kelly, but he hasn't been in 4 Super Bowls. So there's that. So I think he has the numbers that other Super Bowl or Hall of Fame quarterbacks are putting up. He just doesn't have that one thing that all these people have, and that is a Super Bowl ring. So what I think needs to happen going forward is that he needs to ring chase. He is a fantastic backup quarterback for whoever wants to sign him. And I think whether it be the Kansas City Chiefs or any other team in the league, he needs to be the backup quarterback that gets a ring to solidify himself as a Hall of Fame quarterback, because nobody else in that league can do what he does. Nobody else in this league is respected as much as he has. Leader, mentored all the other teams in this league, all the other players that have come up through him. It's absolutely mind-blowing that this guy has been able to do what he has done, bouncing around with 8 different teams in this league. So I have some other numbers here that I could say based on completion percentage. He has a higher completion percentage than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is a Hall of Fame quarterback, and nobody can change my mind about that. And I think he needs to ring chase in order to solidify that. That's my end of rant right there.
Gotta love it. And piggybacking off of that, if I could think of one squad that could be a good destination for him, it would be, back in the AFC East with Buffalo. I think he would be a very good backup to Josh Allen. Much better than Matt Barkley, but I don't think that's our call, sadly. I do think
Buffalo gave him his first full season as a quarterback, so I think he owes to go back there. Ryan Fitzpatrick, if you're watching this podcast right now, sign with Buffalo. Get us that ring. If Josh Allen ever gets hurt, I would love to keep you in this game for as long as you can as a Buffalo Bill.
Absolutely.
And come on the show.
Yeah.
And come on the show.
Yeah, we need more facial hair on this podcast. All right.
I mean, too, Justin brings up an interesting point that, though, so the 2 Bill seasons aren't bad. That defense those were actually 2 pretty bad defense years for the Bills. I think those were when Dick Duran and Chan Gailey were kind of helming the ship. But that Jets season, they won 11 games, didn't they? And missed the playoffs somehow. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, that wide receiver, that first season he played with the Jets, that wide receiver core he had 2: Eric Decker, Brandon Marshall, and a Chris Ivory running back.
Didn't they lose to Buffalo in the snow in week 17 to keep them out of the playoffs too?
Yeah, it was one of those years.
The first or second season of Rexy, and we denied the Jets playoff spot.
It was 2015 was his first year there.
Yeah, I think even up that for 120 and 2 touchdowns, and woo.
Well, feel free to roast me in the chat, in the comment section, whatever you want to do, but nothing is changing my mind that Ryan Fitzpatrick should be a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Absolutely love it, and don't worry, we already gave you a nice air horn for your efforts. Okay, so before we close out, we have to do our rotating segment. We need some hot takes in this up in here. We will start with Seamus. NFL Week 8, what do you got for us?
All right. I'm going to actually not make a totally NFL-related hot take here, which is that sometime next week you will hear that the number 1 pick in the draft should not be Trevor Lawrence, but should be Justin Fields, the quarterback from Ohio State. Trevor Lawrence has been the unanimous number 1 draft pick for the last, I would say, 2 years for this draft. Justin Fields, transfer from Georgia, went to Ohio State, was a Heisman finalist last year with Tua and Trevor, you're going to start hearing the rumblings, especially when they beat the snot out of Penn State on Saturday, that, hey, this guy's just as good as Trevor Lawrence, and he plays with worse talent. He is the guy who should be the number 1 pick.
Well,
that's my hot take. Is you will start getting Justin Fields takes.
All right. Juice, what you got for us?
I want to give Tua a shot this week, but I think against the Rams, the Dolphins solidified themselves as the wild card playoff team in the AFC.
Ooh, love it. Absolutely love it.
A win, right?
It's going to be, it's a win. They solidified that they're going to be that team in the playoffs.
Okay.
Love it. Liam.
And Ryan Fitzpatrick should be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, of course.
All right. I've got an interesting one here. I like to just pick ones that you could definitely know whether or not this happens or not. So I usually just like to pick a team upsetting another team. And this one's connected to my fantasy because I have Dalvin Cook and he's been out the past couple of games and he is coming back with a vengeance. I think Vikings upset Packers in Green Bay, and it's a close one, but I think Vikings hit them on their home soil and beat the Packers and make that division just a little bit weirder.
Well, that would be something. I don't think anyone would ever pick that, so that is actually a very interesting hot take, and I love it.
That's why it's a hot take.
My
Just like what happened.
yeah.
I'm gonna
Who'd
be
have thought?
1
Who'd
and
have thought?
1.
Who'd have thought the definition of a hot
Is it warm
take?
in here?
Give the video back.
And I'll close mine up with something
Take your
that.
shirt off again.
Oh wait, I don't have anything underneath this time. Just all this crab skin
Do it
underneath.
anyway.
Get us banned.
So mine is going to be something that isn't overly crazy. I think that Dallas is going to absolutely obliterate the Eagles this weekend because there is zero, zilch, not a single ounce of NFL game footage of Ben DiNucci. And Ben DiNucci is going to ball out and absolutely spank the Eagles and their battered team. I think that the Dallas Cowboys
Write that down.
I think the Dallas Cowboys win this game by at least 13 points.
And blowout.
And
Stephen A. is
that's
gonna
coming
laugh
from
at
someone
you.
who gets a kick out of checking Dallas Cowboys Twitter every Sunday because I love watching Cowboys fans cry. So
The best Twitter account right now is Cardinals Twitter. Cardinals Twitter's out here getting doing weeb stuff. They're doing like action movie stuff. Their social media guy is like the king right now. He had like the nine-tailed fox on cloak on Kyler Murray on top of like a Die Hard clip during that game. It was great. Go follow the Cardinals Twitter.
all right, gang. We'll get the upload on this onto YouTube right away so that everyone can catch up on the action. Beyond that, thanks for joining us on this Halloween edition of Highly Disputed, the Lloyd and Liam NFL show, minus Lloyd. So catch us next week at 7 for the latest on the talk of the NFL and the latest juicy hot takes. So everyone have a wonderful evening, and we will catch you next week.